Hey guys! Tonight we step into the humid heart of a Mayan city around 500 Common Era, where the air hums with the scent of copal incense and the distant thud of a rubber ball echoing off stone walls. Picture yourself weaving through a bustling plaza, your sandals slapping packed earth as towering pyramids loom and a crowd roars from a nearby ball court where the odd rules of the Mayan ball game unfold. You're here to uncover the strange, sacred regulations of this ancient sport, a mix of athleticism, ritual, and cosmic stakes. Spoiler, you probably won't survive a single match without your modern gym gear, let alone dodge a ball heavier than your head. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're in a vibrant Mayan city, its limestone structures carved with serpents and stars, the ball court a sunken rectangle flanked by sloped stone benches packed with spectators. You're no athlete, but you're here to learn the game's rules, known as Poka Talk, a sacred contest tied to the cosmos. Mainstream fact, from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, the Mayan ball game was a central ritual across Mesoamerica, played on stone courts found in archaeological sites like Chichen Itza and Copan, symbolizing cosmic battles. You adjust your woven headband, sweat already beading. Modern you would be streaming a sports app, not bracing for a divine showdown. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believed the ball's bounce mimicked the sun's journey through the underworld. You chuckle, eyeing the court, hoping you don't have to chase a solar metaphor today. The court's alive with energy. Players stretch, priests chant, and drummers pound rhythms that pulse like a heartbeat. You're edging closer. Your guide, a wiry local who points out the court's high stone rings, goals you'll never hit. The rules are strict. No hands, no feet, just hips, knees, or elbows to keep the heavy ball in play. A game that's less soccer and more cosmic chess. You're starting to feel the weight of this ritual. Each rule a thread in a sacred tapestry, where losing might anger the gods. No pressure, right? A vendor weaves through the crowd, hawking maize cakes, and you're tempted, your stomach growling as you dodge a kid tossing a pebble like it's a mini ball. You smirk. Kids got better aim than you'll ever have on this court. The game's rules are daunting. Teams of 2 to 7 face off, aiming to score through those rings or keep the ball moving, with matches lasting hours or even days. You overhear a priest muttering about the gods watching, and you're wondering how a sport became a divine trial. Historians still argue whether the ball game was primarily sport or ritual. Some say it was a competitive pastime with political stakes. Others think it was a sacred reenactment of creation myths. You're too nervous to debate. You're clutching your headband, the court's stone walls looming, and you're starting to grasp how these rules bound players to a cosmic drama. That incense you sniffed? The crowd's roar swells, and you're tied to this moment. Each thud of the ball a lesson in the game's strange stakes. Your eyelids droop, the plaza's heat and the drum's steady beat blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid night. You're no player, but you're stepping into the Mayan ball court, learning the odd rules of Poka Talk, a sacred spark in the city's vibrant heart. You're still standing at the edge of the Mayan ball court, around 500 Common Era. The air thick with the scent of burning copal and the rhythmic thud of a rubber ball ricocheting off stone walls, the crowd's roar vibrating through your sandals. That Poka Talk court you eyed? You're here to learn the sacred stakes of the ball game, where the rules tied players to divine consequences, a contest that could please gods or seal fates. Mainstream fact, the Mayan ball game, played from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, was deeply ritualistic, often linked to cosmic myths and divine favor, as depicted in carvings and codices found at sites like Palenque. You adjust your woven headband, sweat trickling down your neck. Modern you would be cheering from a stadium seat, not fretting over godly wrath. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believed the ball's path echoed the maize god's rebirth, making each game a divine harvest. You chuckle, dodging a stray pebble, hoping you don't have to symbolize corn today. The court's a cauldron of tension. Players, their bodies painted with red ochre, warm up, their eyes fixed on the high stone rings, while priests in feathered cloaks burn incense, chanting to the gods. You're no priest, but you're starting to feel the game's weight. Its rules more than sport. Each bounce a plea to keep the sun moving, the crops growing, the cosmos balanced. The stakes are cosmic. Win and you honor the gods. Lose and you risk divine displeasure, maybe worse. Your guide, the wiry local, whispers that some games end with offerings, his voice low, and you're wondering if offering means maize or something grimmer. Those drums you heard? The crowd's chants swell, and you're learning how the game's rules wove players into a sacred drama, where every move was a prayer. A grizzled elder, his face lined with ritual scars, leans against a bench, watching the players with a nod. You offer him a sip from your gourd, its water warm but shared, and he shares a tale. A legendary game where a win saved a drought-stricken city, the gods granting rain. You nod, gripping your headband, and realize the stakes go beyond the court. Rulers used games to prove their divine right. Cities wagered pride, and players carried their people's hopes. Historians still argue whether the game's stakes were symbolic or literal. Some say losses led to ritual sacrifice. Others think victories were enough to appease the gods. You're too nervous to care. You're watching a player stretch, his hip pads heavy, and you're grasping how the rules made every match a divine gamble. That maize cake you craved? The court's rhythm is intense. Drums pulse, a conch horn blares. The crowd's shouts rise as the ball flies. You spot a young boy mimicking the player's moves, his hips swaying as he pretends to strike an invisible ball, his grin wide despite the game's weight. You smirk. Kids got more swagger than you'll ever muster on this court. Your hands are sweaty, and you're dreaming of a modern sports bar. But there's a sacred pull in this moment, each thud of the ball tying you to a world where games were cosmic battles. That incense haze? The priests sprinkle maize meal on the court, a blessing for the gods, and you're caught in the stakes. Lose, and the underworld stirs. Win, and the heavens smile. You edge closer to the benches, the stone warm under your palms, and overhear a woman chanting for her brother, a player, her voice tight with pride and fear. The game's rules bind everyone, players, priests, spectators, in a shared ritual, where the ball's path could shift fates. A vendor, his basket heavy with tamales, pauses to pray, and you grin. He's betting on the gods as much as the players. That pebble you dodged? The air's heavy with smoke and anticipation, and you're starting to respect these stakes, where every rule was a thread in a divine tapestry, a days-long plea for cosmic favor. The ball slams against a wall, the crowd gasping, and you're braced for the game's next move, your heart racing as the sacred stakes loom larger. The court's pulse is fierce. Chants, drums, the ball's relentless thud. You're tied to this ritual, where every rule carried divine weight, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. Your eyelids droop, the incenses curl, and the drum's deep beat blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid night. You're no player, but you're learning the game's sacred stakes, a cosmic thread in the ball court's ancient weave. You're still gripping the warm stone bench at the edge of the Mayan ball court, around 500 Common Era. the air buzzing with the scent of maize roasting nearby, and the sharp crack of a rubber ball slamming against the court's sloped walls, the crowd's gasps echoing, those sacred stakes you felt? You're here to wield the heavy, solid rubber ball, grappling with the game's odd rule that makes it a brutal challenge to control, a test of skill in this cosmic ritual. Mainstream fact: Mayan ball games, played from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, used a solid rubber ball, often weighing up to 4 kilograms, made from latex of the Castilla elastica tree, as confirmed by archaeological finds of balls and court designs. You tug at your padded hip belt, its weight unfamiliar. Modern you would be tossing a lightweight soccer ball, not wrestling a rubber boulder. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some players believed rubbing the ball with cacao blessed it with divine speed. You chuckle, eyeing the ball's dull surface, hoping it doesn't need a chocolate polish to behave today. The court's a pulsing arena. Players lunge, their hip pads thudding as they strike the ball, sweat gleaming under the midday sun. You're handed the ball by your wiry guide, its surface rough and heavier than you expected, like a cannonball disguised as a toy. The rules are clear. Keep it moving, aim for the stone rings high above, but its weight makes every move a battle. You're no athlete, but you're starting to feel the challenge. Each swing of your hips a clumsy fight against the ball's stubborn mass. That priest's chant you heard? You test a strike, the ball barely budging, and the guide laughs, showing you how to pivot your hips for power. The crowd's roar fades as you focus, the ball's heft a reminder of the game's unforgiving rules. A grizzled player, his arms scarred from years of play, pauses to watch, offering a nod and a tip. Lean into the strike, let your body's weight guide the ball. You offer him a sip from your gourd, its water tepid but shared, and try again, your hips aching as the ball skids across the court. The ball's not just heavy, it's unpredictable, bouncing off the sloped walls in ways that defy your instincts. You're learning its role, a symbol of the sun or maize god, its movement a cosmic dance, but also a brutal test of endurance. Historians still argue whether the ball's weight was meant to symbolize divine struggle or simply challenge players' skill. Some say it mimicked celestial motion, others think it was a practical test of strength. You're too sore to care. You're heaving the ball, your breath short, and you're grasping how its weight shaped the game's intensity. That tamale you eyed?
The court's rhythm is fierce. Drums pound, the ball's thud echoes. Spectators chant for their favorites. You spot a young boy tossing the smaller rubber ball outside the court, his mimicry precise, probably dreaming of playing for real. You smirk. Kid's got better form than you, and he's not even sweating. Your hips burn, and you're dreaming of a modern gym with foam dodgeballs. But there's a gritty thrill in this challenge, each strike tying you to a world where the ball was a divine force. That incense haze? You swing again, the ball careening off a wall, and the guide claps, his grin a small victory in your clumsy effort. The crowd's eyes follow the ball, their cheers a pressure you're not ready for. You pause, panting, and hand the ball to a waiting player, its weight a relief to shed. The court's stone walls loom, carved with serpents that seem to watch your every move, and you're starting to respect the ball's role. Its heft wasn't just a rule, but a test, binding players to the god's will. A woman in the crowd, her shawl bright with woven patterns, shouts encouragement, and you grin. She's louder than your high school coach. That pebble you dodged? The air's thick with dust and heat, and you're learning how the ball's challenge wove players into the game's sacred stakes, a days-long battle of body and spirit. The ball rockets past, struck by a veteran player, and you're braced for the game's next rule, your body humming with the effort. The court's pulse is relentless, chants, thuds, the crowd's roar. You're tied to this challenge, where the heavy ball was a cosmic test, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. Your eyelids droop, the court's heat and the maze's smoky scent blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid day. You're no player, but you're wielding the heavy ball, learning the odd rules of Poka-Talk, a sacred thread in the ball court's ancient weave. You're still catching your breath on the sidelines of the Mayan ball court around 500 Common Era, the air heavy with the scent of dust stirred by the heavy rubber ball and the faint sweetness of cacao from a priest's ceremonial drinks nearby. That hip-bruising ball you swung? Your hips throb from striking it, and you're here to navigate the game's odd rule. Use hips, not hands, to control the ball, a restriction that makes Poka-Talk a unique test of skill and discipline in this sacred ritual. Mainstream fact, the Mayan ball game, played from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, required players to strike a solid rubber ball primarily with their hips, as depicted in ceramic figurines and stone reliefs found at sites like Tikal and Yaxchilan. You tug at your padded hip belt, its leather chafing. Modern you would be dribbling with hands in a pickup basketball game, not swiveling like a cosmic hula hooper. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believed hip strikes honored the moon goddess, linking each move to her celestial dance. You chuckle, rubbing your side, hoping your hips don't need divine choreography to survive this rule. The court's a blur of motion. Players pivot, their hips slamming the ball with a dull thud, their padded belts creaking as they dodge its erratic bounces. You're back in the court, your guide urging you to practice the hip-only rule, a restriction that feels like tying one arm behind your back. Hands and feet are forbidden. Only hips, elbows, or knees can touch the ball, forcing you into awkward, powerful twists to keep it aloft. You're no gymnast, but you're starting to grasp the rule's challenge. It demands precision and strength, each hip strike a test of control in a game where chaos reigns. That elder's tale of triumph? You swing your hips, the ball grazing your belt and skidding off a wall, the crowd's laughter stinging your ears. The guide's sharp nod keeps you trying, his patience a small anchor in the court's frenzy. A wiry veteran player, his hip pads worn smooth, pauses to watch, offering a tip. Keep your knees bent and twist from the core like grinding maize. You offer him a maize cake from a vendor. It's worth a quick trade. And he grins, showing you a fluid hip pivot that sends the ball soaring. You try again, your strike wobbly but better, and realize the rule's not just physical, it's ritualistic, tying each move to the cosmos, where hips channel divine energy. You're learning its discipline. One hand graze could disqualify a point or anger the gods, and the ball's weight makes every strike a gamble. Historians still argue whether the hip-only rule was practical or symbolic. Some say it honed specific skills for battle. Others think it mirrored divine myths of creation and movement. You're too sore to care. You're striking the ball, your hips screaming, and you're grasping how this rule shaped the game's sacred intensity. That cacao blessing you dodged? The court's rhythm is relentless. Drums boom. The ball's thud echoes. The crowd chants for a score. You spot a young girl outside the court, mimicking the player's hip sways with a stick, her movements bold, probably dreaming of cheering her brother someday. You smirk. Kid's got more grace than you, and she's not even in the game. Your belt's digging in, and you're dreaming of a modern soccer pitch where hands are allowed. But there's a gritty spark in this restriction, each hip strike tying you to a world where rules were divine laws. That heavy ball's weight? The ball rockets past, a veteran's hips sending it high, and you dodge, your heart racing as the crowd roars, their energy a weight heavier than your pads. You retreat to the bench, your hips aching, and watch the players weave, their hip strikes fluid despite the ball's heft. The court's stone walls, carved with jaguars, seem to pulse with each hit, and you're starting to respect this rule. Its demand for discipline was a bridge to the gods, a dance of body and spirit. A priest scatters flower petals, his chant rising, and you grin. He's more intense than a halftime pep talker. That pebble boy you saw? The air's thick with heat and anticipation, and you're learning how the hips-only rule bound players to the game's heart, a days-long test of devotion.
The ball slams nearby, the crowds gasp sharp, and you're braced for the game's next rule, your body humming with the effort. The court's pulse is fierce, chants, thuds, a horn's wail. You're tied to this ritual, where hips ruled the dance, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. Your eyelids droop, the court's dust and the cacao's faint sweetness blending into a sleepy haze like a fan's hum on a humid day. You're no player, but you're navigating the hips-only rule, learning the odd rules of Pocatalk, a sacred thread in the ball court's ancient weave. You're still slumped on the sun-warmed bench at the Mayan ball court, around 500 Common Era. The air thick with the scent of sweat-soaked leather pads and the faint tang of copal incense drifting from a nearby altar. That hip-only rule, you fumbled? Your hips ache from striking the heavy ball, and you're here to navigate the game's ritualistic timing, a strict rule tying Pocatalk to sacred calendars and cosmic events, making each match a divine appointment. Mainstream fact: Mayan ball games, played from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, were often scheduled to align with astronomical or religious events, such as solstices or festivals, as indicated by inscriptions on stelae and court markers at sites like Uxmal. You adjust your headband, its weave damp. Modern you would be checking a sports app for game times, not syncing with the stars. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believed playing at midnight drew the underworld god's favor, ensuring victory. You chuckle, eyeing the midday sun, hoping you're not summoned for a moonlit match tonight. The court's a vibrant stage. Players dart, their hip strikes sending the ball thudding against stone walls, while priests consult a codex, their murmurs setting the game's pace. You're learning the timing rule from your wiry guide, who points to a carved calendar stone nearby, its glyphs marking sacred days. Games aren't random. They're timed for equinoxes, maize harvests, or Venus's rise. Each match a ritual to honor gods or mark cosmic shifts. You're no astronomer, but you're starting to feel the rules' weight. Each scheduled game a thread in the Mayan calendar, where time itself is divine. That veteran's hip tip? The crowd's chants rise, timed to a drum's beat, and you're wondering how players keep focus when the stars dictate their start time. A grizzled priest, his cloak heavy with Quetzal feathers, pauses to sprinkle maize meal, signaling a pause until the sun hits a specific court marker. You offer him a sip from your gourd, its water lukewarm but shared, and he explains, "Today's game honors the solstice, its timing a plea for the sun's return." You nod, your headband slipping, and realize the rule's precision. Games could halt mid-play if clouds obscure a star or a priest reads the omens wrong. You're learning its discipline. Timing binds the court to the cosmos, and missing a sacred hour could anger the gods. Historians still argue whether the game's timing was purely ritualistic or also political. Some say it aligned with religious cycles. Others think rulers used it to flex power during key events. You're too dazzled to care. You're watching the priest's shadow align with a glyph, the game resuming, and you're grasping how timing ruled Pocatalk's heart. That cacao chant you dodged? The court's rhythm is sacred. Conch horns wail, the ball's thud syncs with drums, the crowd's roar ebbs with the priest's gestures. You spot a young boy near the altar, clutching a tiny calendar stone, his eyes wide as he mimics the priest's calculations, probably dreaming of leading a dame. You smirk. Kid's got more cosmic savvy than you, and he's not even playing. Your hands are clammy, and you're dreaming of a modern clock. But there's a mystic pull in this timing, each pause tying you to a world where the calendar was a divine script. That heavy ball's bounce? The ball rockets past, a player's hip strike perfectly timed, and you flinch, the crowd's cheer a wave that drowns your thoughts. You edge closer to the court's rim, the stone hot under your palms, and watch the priests adjust the game's pace, their codex open to track the sun's arc. The timing rule's strict. Games could stretch over days, pausing for omens or resuming at dawn, each moment a cosmic checkpoint. A woman in the crowd, her necklace glinting, prays for her son's team, her voice timed to the drum's beat. And you grin. She's more synchronized than a halftime show. That pebble tosser you saw? The air's heavy with incense and anticipation, and you're starting to respect this rule, where timing wove players into the god's rhythm, a days-long dance of devotion. The ball slams a wall, the crowd gasping, and you're braced for the game's next rule, your heart pulsing with the court's sacred clock. The court's pulse is hypnotic, chants, thuds, a priest's low hum. You're tied to this ritual, where timing was a divine thread, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. Your eyelids droop, the altar's smoke and the maze's earthy scent blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid day. You're no timekeeper, but you're navigating the ritual's strict timing, learning the odd rules of Pocatello, a cosmic thread in the ball court's ancient weave. You're still perched on the sun-baked bench by the Mayan ball court, around 500 Common Era, the air alive with the scent of crushed herbs from a priest's brazier, and the sharp thud of the rubber ball careening off stone walls, its bounce timed to the sacred calendar, that cosmic clock you marveled at? Your headband soaked, and you're here to join a team with sacred roles, navigating the rule that assigns each player a divine duty in Pocatello, turning the game into a ritual of cosmic balance. Mainstream fact, Mayan ball games, played from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, featured teams with specialized roles, often linked to mythological figures like the hero twins, as shown in the Popol Vuh and court reliefs at sites like Copan. You tighten your hip pads, their leather creaking. Modern you would be picking a fantasy league lineup, not embodying a god's avatar. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some players believed their sweat pleased the rain god Chalk, ensuring a win brought storms. You chuckle, wiping your brow, hoping your damp shirt doesn't summon a monsoon. The court's a swirling arena. Players leap, their hips striking the ball with disciplined grace, each move a nod to their sacred role. Your wiry guide pulls you into a huddle with a team, assigning you the role of striker, a player tasked with mimicking the sun god's journey. Each teammate has a duty. Defenders guard the court's underworld. Scorers aim for the rings to honor the sky gods. And you're no hero, but you're feeling the weight of this rule, where every player's a piece in a divine puzzle. That priest's maze sprinkle? The ball rockets past, and you're shoved into position. Your team's chants low but fierce, urging you to channel the sun's fire. The crowd's eyes burn into you, their cheers a cosmic pressure. A grizzled captain, his chest painted with jaguar spots, grips your shoulder, teaching you to strike with purpose, as if pushing the sun across the sky. You offer him a maize cake, its crumbs a quick trade, and he shows you a stance, knees bent, hips ready, that feels like a prayer. You're learning the rule's depth. Roles aren't just strategy, but mythology. Each player a stand-in for gods or ancestors, their moves a reenactment of creation. The striker's job is to keep the ball moving, a solar path through the court's chaos, and you're already winded, your pads heavy. Historians still argue whether team roles were fixed or flexible. Some say they mirrored rigid social hierarchies. Others think players swapped duties based on skill or ritual need. You're too focused to care. You're dodging the ball, your hips clumsy, and you're grasping how roles wove the game into a sacred script. That solstice pause you saw? The court's rhythm is electric. Drums pulse, a conch horn wails, the crowd's chants sync with each strike. You spot a young boy near the benches, waving a feather to mimic the captain's jaguar roll, his eyes bright with hero worship, probably dreaming of leading a team. You smirk. Kid's got more divine swagger than you, and he's not even padded up. Your knees ache, and you're dreaming of a modern team jersey, but there's a mystic spark in this role. Each hip strike tying you to a world where players were God's proxies. That heavy ball's thud? You swing at the ball, your strike weak but true, and the captain grunts approval, his nod a small victory in the court's divine drama. You stumble back to the huddle, your breath ragged as the team repositions, the defender shouting to guard the underworld zone. The rules clear. Each role carries a sacred task, and failure risks cosmic imbalance, maybe drought or darkness. A woman in the crowd, her shawl woven with stars, cheers for the scorer, her voice carrying a prayer. And you grin, she's more intense than a soccer mom. That pebble kid you dodged? The air's thick with heat and herb smoke, and you're starting to respect this rule, where roles bound players to the god's will, a days-long act of devotion. The ball slams a wall, the crowd gasping, and you're braced for your next move, your body humming with the team's sacred duty. The court's pulse is fierce, chants, thuds, the captain's sharp call. You're tied to this ritual where roles were divine threads, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. Your eyelids droop, the brazier's smoke and the maze's earthy scent blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid day. You're no god, but you're joining a team with sacred roles, learning the odd rules of Pocketalk, a cosmic thread in the ball court's ancient weave. You're still panting in the huddle of your Pocketalk team on the Mayan ball court around 500 Common Era, the air thick with the scent of sweat-soaked pads and the faint crackle of a nearby torch, its light dancing on the court's stone walls. That sun god role you stumbled through? Your hip pads chafe, and you're here to decode the ball court's hidden symbols, a rule that weaves cosmic designs into the game's structure, making every bounce a step in a divine narrative. Mainstream fact, Mayan ball courts, used from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, were designed with symbolic elements, such as serpent carvings and cosmic alignments, representing the underworld and celestial realms, as seen in archaeological studies of sites like Chichen Itza. You trace a carved jaguar on the bench, its eyes fierce. Modern you would be snapping Instagram shots, not reading stone stories. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believed the court's shadows at equinox revealed divine messages, guiding players' moves. You chuckle, glancing at the torchlight, hoping you don't need a shadow oracle to survive this game. The court's a living canvas. Players' hips strike the ball, its thud echoing off walls etched with gods and stars. Each design a rule in the game's cosmic script. Your wiry guide points to a serpent carving, its coils framing the court, explaining it's the underworld's gate, where the ball's path mimics the hero twins' mythic journey. You're no scholar, but you're starting to feel the symbol's weight, each glyph a clue to the game's deeper stakes. Play well and you honor the cosmos. Falter and the underworld stirs. That captain's jaguar paint? The ball rockets past, grazing a carved maze god, and you're learning how the court's designs aren't just art, but rules, guiding players through a sacred map of creation and chaos. A grizzled scribe, his fingers stained with ochre, pauses to sketch a court glyph, offering you a peek at his codex, its pages alive with star charts. You share a sip from your gourd, its water tepid but welcome, and he traces a ring carving, saying it's the sky's portal, tying each score to the god's gaze. You're decoding the symbols. The court's sloped walls are mountains, its center the earth, the rings a path to the heavens. The rules subtle but strict. Players must respect these designs, their moves aligning with the cosmic narrative, or risk divine wrath. Historians still argue whether the court's symbols were purely ritualistic or also strategic. Some say they dictated gameplay tactics. Others think they were decorative, enhancing the game's myth. You're too awed to care. You're tracing a serpent's coil, the ball's thud nearby, and you're grasping how symbols shaped Pocketalk's soul. That solstice timing you tracked?
The court's rhythm is mystic. Drums hum. A priest's chant weaves through the crowd's roar. The ball's bounce syncs with cosmic tales. You spot a young girl near the court's edge, sketching a jaguar in the dirt, her lines precise, probably dreaming of carving her own glyphs someday.
You smirk. Kid's got more artistry than you, and she's not even holding a codex. Your fingers are dusty, and you're dreaming of a modern museum tour. But there's a sacred pull in these symbols, each carving tying you to a world where the court was a cosmic stage. That heavy ball's weight? The ball slams a wall, its path tracing a carved star, and you flinch. The crowd's gasp, a reminder of the symbol's power. You edge closer to the court's rim, the stone warm under your palms, and study a feathered serpent, its eyes seeming to follow the ball. The rules clear. The court's designs guide the game. Each bounce a step in a divine story, from underworld to sky. A man in the crowd, his tunic bright with woven patterns, points to a ring, shouting for a score, his voice a prayer. And you grin. He's more invested than a fantasy league coach. That maize cake you traded? The air's heavy with torch smoke and anticipation, and you're starting to respect this rule where symbols wove players into the cosmos, a days-long dance of myth and motion. The ball grazes a carving, the crowd cheering, and you're braced for the game's next rule, your heart pulsing with the court's sacred script. The court's pulse is hypnotic. Chants, thuds, the scribe's low hum. You're tied to this ritual, where symbols were divine threads, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. Your eyelids droop, the torch's glow and the herb's smoky scent blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid night. You're no scribe, but you're decoding the court's hidden symbols, learning the odd rules of Pocahontas, a cosmic thread in the ball court's ancient weave. You're still leaning against the carved stone rim of the Mayan ball court around 500 Common Era, the air buzzing with the scent of torch smoke and the faint tang of sweat from players darting across the court, the serpent carvings glinting under flickering light, those cosmic symbols you traced. Your hip pads feel heavy, and you're here to face the spectator's fierce influence, a rule that makes the crowd an active force in Pocahontas, their cheers and jeers shaping the game's sacred flow. Mainstream fact: Mayan ball games, played from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, were communal events where spectators played a key role, often influencing outcomes through vocal support or ritual participation, as depicted in murals and reliefs at sites like El Tajín. You wipe sweat from your brow, the crowd's roar pressing in. Modern you would be tweeting game highlights, not dodging a mob's divine verdict. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believed a unified crowd's chant could sway the ball's path like a cosmic wind. You chuckle, clutching your headband, hoping their shouts don't blow you off the court today. The court's a cauldron of energy. Players' hips slam the ball, its thud echoing off walls, while the crowd, nobles, farmers, priests, surges on the sloped benches, their voices a tidal wave. You're back in the game, your wiry guide warning you that the spectator's rule is as vital as any hip strike. Their cheers can boost a team's spirit, their curses can falter it, and their rituals tie the match to the gods. You're no performer, but you're feeling their influence, each shout a weight on your shoulders, urging you to strike true or risk their wrath. That scribe's codex you peeked at? The ball rockets past, and a noble's piercing whistle rattles you, the crowd's eyes burning as they judge your every move. You're learning their power. They're not just watchers, but players, their noise a sacred force in the game's cosmic dance. A grizzled woman, her shawl woven with jaguar motifs, leans from the bench, shouting for your team to score, her voice sharp with devotion. You offer her a maize cake, its warmth a quick trade, and she grips your arm, urging you to honor the sun god with a strong hit. You nod, your hips tense, and realize the crowd's rule is fierce. They chant for winners, pray for divine favor, and sometimes hurl insults or offerings, like maize or feathers, to sway the game. Their influence shapes strategy. Teams play bolder under cheers, waver under jeers, and you're struggling to focus as boos target a rival player's miss. Historians still argue whether spectators' influence was spontaneous or orchestrated. Some say crowds acted freely, driven by passion. Others think priests or rulers guided their reactions for ritual or political ends. You're too rattled to care. You're striking the ball, the crowd's roar deafening, and you're grasping how their fervor fueled Pocatoc's heart, that solstice timing you tracked. The court's rhythm is chaotic. Drums pound, a conch horn blares, the crowd's chants clash with players' grunts. You spot a young boy on the benches, waving a tiny banner painted with a star, his shouts high-pitched but fierce, probably cheering for his uncle. You smirk. Kid's louder than you'll ever be, and he's not even in the pads. Your knees wobble, and you're dreaming of a modern stadium with polite applause. But there's a raw thrill in this influence. Each cheer tying you to a world where the crowd was a divine chorus. That heavy ball's thud? The ball slams a wall, and a priest tosses petals from the stands, his chant urging a score, the crowd's surge nearly knocking you off balance. You stagger back to your team's huddle, the crowd's noise a relentless pulse, and catch your breath as the captain shouts to ignore their taunts. The spectators' rule is clear. They're part of the ritual. Their voices a bridge to the gods, amplifying the game's stakes. A man in the crowd, his face painted red, hurls a feather at a rival, and you grin. He's got more aim than a tailgate heckler. That pebble kid you dodged? The air's thick with heat and incense, and you're starting to respect this rule, where the crowd's influence wove players into the cosmic drama, a days-long test of nerve and spirit. The ball rockets past, the crowd's gasp sharp, and you're braced for the next rule, your heart racing under their fierce gaze. The court's pulse is wild, chants, thuds, a noble's whistle. You're tied to this ritual where spectators shaped the game, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. Your eyelids droop, the torches flicker, and the herb's smoky scent blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid night. You're no star, but you're facing the spectator's fierce influence, learning the odd rules of Pocatoc, a cosmic thread in the ball court's ancient weave. You're still reeling from the crowd's roar in the Mayan ball court, around 500 Common Era, the air thick with the scent of scattered flower petals and the sharp thud of the rubber ball ricocheting off stone walls, the spectators' chants still ringing in your ears. That fierce crowd you faced? Your hip pads sag, and you're here to master the elusive art of scoring, a Pocatoc rule that demands you aim for the high stone ring, a near impossible feat in this sacred game. Mainstream fact: Mayan ball games, played from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, featured scoring through vertical stone rings set high on court walls, a rare and celebrated achievement, as depicted in reliefs and noted in archaeological studies of sites like Chichen Itza. You tug at your sweat-soaked headband, eyeing the ring far above. Modern you would be shooting hoops with a net, not aiming for a divine bullseye. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believed a ball passing through the ring opened a portal to the gods, blessing the scorer's lineage. You chuckle, squinting at the ring, hoping you don't need to channel a deity to hit it today. The court's a whirlwind of motion. Players' hips strike the ball, its heavy bounce erratic, while the crowd surges, their cheers spiking with each near score. You're back in the game, your wiry guide urging you to aim for the ring, a narrow hoop perched 3 meters up, its carved serpents glaring like cosmic referees. The scoring rule is brutal. Threading the ball through is a rare triumph, often ending the match, but keeping it in play racks up points too. You're no sharpshooter, but you're feeling the rule's challenge. Each hip strike a desperate bid to graze that ring and earn divine favor. That woman's jaguar chant? You swing your hips, the ball soaring but thudding below the ring,
The crowd's groan a knife to your pride. The guide's sharp clap keeps you moving, his faith in you a small spark in the court's chaos. A grizzled scorer, his belt adorned with feather charms, pauses to watch, offering a tip. Aim high, use the wall's slope to angle the shot. You share a sip from your gourd, its water stale but welcome, and he demonstrates a twisting hip strike that sends the ball arcing close to the ring. You try, your shot wobbly but higher, and realize the rule's artistry. Scoring demands precision, timing, and luck, a blend of skill and cosmic grace. The ring's not just a goal, but a sacred gate, its challenge tying the game to myths of celestial passage. Historians still argue whether scoring through the ring was the primary goal or a symbolic bonus. Some say it was the ultimate win. Others think controlling the ball's motion mattered more. You're too winded to care. You're striking again, the ring taunting, and you're grasping how scoring defined Pocatoc's thrill. That serpent carving you traced?
The court's rhythm is feverish. Drums boom, the ball's thud syncs with chants, the crowd's shouts peak as a shot nears the ring. You spot a young boy on the benches, tossing a pebble at a stick, mimicking a ring shot, his grin wide despite the game's stakes. You smirk, kid's got better aim than you, and he's not even padded up. Your hips burn, and you're dreaming of a modern basketball rim. But there's a sacred spark in this pursuit, each shot tying you to a world where the ring was a divine threshold. That cosmic timing? The ball rockets past, a veteran strike grazing the ring's edge, and you duck, the crowd's roar a wave that shakes the court's stones. You stagger to your team's side, the scorer's advice echoing, and reposition for another shot, the ring's height a cruel test. The rule's clear, scoring is rare, a moment of glory that binds players to the gods, their shots a prayer for cosmic order. A noble in the crowd, his headdress glinting, shouts for a score, his voice a command, and you grin. He's more intense than a sports betting app. That feather toss you dodged? The air's thick with dust and heat, and you're starting to respect this rule, where the ring's challenge wove players into the game's myth, a days-long quest for divine acclaim. The ball slams nearby, the crowd gasping, and you're braced for the next rule, your heart pounding with the ring's elusive call. The court's pulse is relentless, chants, thuds, a priest's horn wail. You're tied to this ritual, where scoring was a sacred art, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. Your eyelids droop, the court's haze and the pedal's faint sweetness blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid night. You're no champion, but you're aiming for the scoring ring, learning the odd rules of Pocatoc, a cosmic thread in the ball court's ancient weave. You're still gasping on the sidelines of the Mayan ball court around 500 Common Era, the air heavy with the scent of trampled earth and the faint sting of sweat from your failed shot at the stone ring, its carved serpents mocking your aim, that elusive scoring art you chased. Your hip pads sag, and you're here to grapple with the grim shadow of sacrifice, a Pocatoc rule that ties the game's outcomes to deadly consequences, where losing could mean offering blood to the gods. Mainstream fact: Mayan ball games played from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era were sometimes linked to human sacrifice, with evidence like skeletal remains and reliefs at sites like Chichen Itza suggesting losers or captives faced ritual death in certain high-stakes matches. You clutch your headband, its weave fraying. Modern you would be stressing over a game loss on social media, not fearing a priest's blade. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believed a sacrificed player's spirit joined the gods, ensuring cosmic balance. You chuckle, rubbing your neck, hoping your team's score keeps you earthbound today. The court's a tense arena. Players' hips slam the ball, its thud reverberating off walls, while priests in feathered cloaks watch from a stone platform, their eyes sharp with divine judgment. You're back with your team, your wiry guide whispering that this match, tied to a solstice, carries heavy stakes. Lose and the gods might demand blood, maybe yours as the rookie striker. The sacrifice rule is murky but real. Not every game ends in death, but high-stakes matches, like those honoring rulers or seasons, could see losers or captives offered to appease deities. You're no warrior, but you're feeling the rules chill. Each hip strike a desperate bid to avoid the altar. That scorer's feather charm? The ball rockets past, and you flinch. The crowd's roar laced with a hunger you can't ignore. Their chants a reminder of the game's dark edge. A grizzled priest, his face painted with black stripes, stands nearby, holding a flint knife that glints under torchlight. You offer him a maize cake, its crumbs a nervous trade, and he mutters that sacrifice ensures the sun's rise, his voice flat but heavy. You nod, your headband slipping, and realize the rule's weight. Defeat could mean a ritual cut, a heart offered to Chalk or the maize god, tying the game to cosmic survival. You're learning its shadow. Players fought not just for glory, but life, their skill a shield against the gods' hunger. Historians still argue whether sacrifice was routine or exceptional in Pocahontas. Some say it was reserved for elite games or captives. Others think it was a rare, symbolic act to mark cosmic events. You're too tense to care. You're striking the ball, your hips aching, and you're grasping how the thread of sacrifice haunted every match. That jaguar carving you traced? The court's rhythm is ominous. Drums pulse low, a conch horn wails. The crowd's chants carry a fevered edge. You spot a young boy near the platform, clutching a feather, his eyes wide as he watches the priests, probably praying his brother stays safe. You smirk, kids braver than you, facing the game's stakes while you're just trying to breathe. Your knees shake, and you're dreaming of a modern sports penalty kick. But there's a grim pull in this shadow, each strike tying you to a world where loss could mean eternity. That solstice timing? The ball slams a wall, your team's defender blocking a rival's shot, and you exhale. The crowds cheer, a fleeting relief in the game's deadly dance. You retreat to the team's huddle, the priest's knife glinting in your mind, and listen as the captain urges you to keep the ball moving. Every point a buffer against the god's wrath. The sacrifice rule casts a pall. Players glance at the platform, their faces tight, knowing the god's favor hinges on their skill. A woman in the crowd, her shawl bright, prays loudly for your team, her voice cracking, and you grin. She's more intense than a playoff fan. That pebble kid you dodged? The air's thick with incense and fear, and you're starting to respect this rule, where the thread of sacrifice wove players into a cosmic gamble, a days-long fight for life. The ball rockets past, the crowd gasping, and you're braced for the next rule, your heart pounding under the altar's shadow. The court's pulse is heavy, chants, thuds, a priest's low hum. You're tied to this ritual where sacrifice loomed, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. Your eyelids droop, the torches flicker, and the earth's dusty scent blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid night. You're no hero, but you're grappling with sacrifice's grim shadow, learning the odd rules of Pocahontas, a cosmic thread in the ball court's ancient weave. You're still trembling on the sidelines of the Mayan ball court, around 500 Common Era, the air thick with the scent of smoldering copal and the faint echo of the rubber ball's thud, the priest's flint knife still glinting in your memory, that grim sacrifice shadow you faced. Your hip pads feel like lead, and you're here to reflect on the lasting legacy of Pocahontas, a game whose odd rules left a cultural echo in Mayan society and beyond, shaping art, myth, and memory. Mainstream fact? The Mayan ball game, played from around 1500 before Common Era to 900 Common Era, profoundly influenced Mesoamerican culture, with its imagery and symbolism preserved in codices, ceramics, and stone reliefs found at sites like Tikal and Palenque, enduring even after the decline of major cities. You clutch your frayed headband, its weave a tether to the game. Modern you would be binge-watching a sports doc, not pondering a ritual's ripple through time. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believe the ball court stones held players' spirits, whispering victories to future generations. You chuckle, patting the bench, hoping it doesn't gossip about your lousy hip strikes. The court's quieter now. The match paused as priests consult omens. The crowd's murmurs soft under torchlight. You're leaning against a carved jaguar, its stone cool, thinking how Pocatox rules, hip strikes, cosmic timing, sacred roles, that ring you missed, wove a legacy that outlasted empires. The game wasn't just sport, it was a cultural heartbeat. Its stories carved into pyramids, painted on vases, sung in myths like the Popol Vuh. You're no historian, but you're feeling its echo. Each rule a thread in a tapestry of faith, power, and community that shaped Mayan life and inspired later cultures. The air's heavy with dust, and you're seeing the game's reach, in art, in tales of hero twins, in the courts still standing centuries later. A grizzled elder, his eyes clouded but sharp, sits nearby, weaving a palm mat and humming a tale of a legendary player whose score saved a city. You offer him a sip from your gourd, it's water low but shared, and he shares how ball games united communities, their rules a shared language across cities. You nod, your headband slipping, and realize the legacy's depth. Pocatox rituals strengthened social bonds, its stakes justified rulers' power, its art immortalized players as gods. Historians still argue whether the game's legacy was unifying or divisive. Some say it fostered regional alliances through shared rituals. Others think it fueled rivalries, with cities wagering pride or captives. You're too reflective to care. You're tracing the jaguar's claws, the court's silence profound. And you're grasping how Pocatox rules left a lasting mark. That maze god bounce you pondered? The court's rhythm is soft. A priest's low chant, a drum's faint tap, the crowd's hushed prayers. You spot a young girl sketching a ball player in the dirt, her lines bold, probably dreaming of her brother's glory being carved in stone someday. You smirk. Kid's got more vision than you, and she's not even holding a codex. Your hands are gritty, and you're dreaming of a modern museum, but there's a quiet pull in this legacy. Each memory tying you to a world where the game's rules echoed in every Mayan heart. That solstice pause? The court's carvings, serpents, stars, players, seem to glow. Their stories a bridge to a past that still whispers in jungles and ruins. You settle deeper against the bench, the stone grounding you, and let the court's stillness sink in. Pocatox legacy lives in its rules, hip-only strikes, cosmic rings, sacred stakes, that inspired art, bound communities, and fueled myths that survived conquests. You felt it, the crowd's roar, the ball's weight, the priest's chants, each a note in a song that echoes in modern games, festivals, even the pride of descendants. A man in the crowd, his tunic faded, hums a victory song, and you grin. He's carrying the legacy louder than a sports anthem. That pebble kid you dodged? The air's cool, the torch is dim, and you're starting to respect this legacy, where Pocatox rules wove a cultural thread through time, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. The court's pulse is gentle, a breeze's sigh, a player's soft laugh, the night's quiet embrace. You're tied to this echo, where the game's rules became legend, a thread in the ball court's ancient weave. Your eyelids droop, the torches flicker, and the earth's dusty scent blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid night. You're no myth maker, but you're reflecting on Pocatox's lasting legacy, learning how its odd rules shaped a civilization, a cosmic spark in the Mayan world's enduring heart. The court's pulse is gentle, a breeze's sigh, a player's soft laugh, the night's quiet embrace. You're tied to this echo, where the game's rules became legend, a thread in the ball court's ancient weave. Your eyelids droop, the torches flicker, and the earth's dusty scent blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a humid night. You're no mythmaker, but you're reflecting on Pocatoc's lasting legacy, learning how its odd rules shaped a civilization, a cosmic spark in the Mayan world's enduring heart.
You're still slumped against the cool stone bench of the Mayan ball court, around 900 Common Era. The night air soft with the scent of fading torch embers and the faint rustle of palm fronds overhead. The court's legacy still humming in your thoughts, those mythic echoes you pondered. Your hip pads rest beside you, and you're here to rest in the night's quiet reflection, pondering the strange twists of Pocatoc's odd rules, each a thread in the Mayan tapestry of survival, faith, and cosmic play. Mainstream fact: the Mayan ball game, played from around 1500 before Common Era to 1278 Common Era, was a multifaceted ritual that blended sport, religion, and politics, with its rules reflecting the Mayans' worldview, as evidenced by archaeological finds like court structures and codices at sites like Copan and Palenque. You clutch your headband, its weave a faint tether to the game. Modern you would be winding down with a playlist, not searching for meaning in a starlit court. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Mayans believed the court's dust, when sprinkled on crops, carried players' strength to the harvest. You smile, kicking at the dirt, hoping your reflection doesn't accidentally bless a maize field tonight. The court is hushed, the match long ended, its stone walls bathed in moonlight. The crowd dispersed, save for a few lingering priests murmuring prayers. You're leaning back, the jaguar carving at your side, a silent witness to your thoughts on Pocatoc's rules. Hip strikes, sacred timing, cosmic rings, and grim stakes. That scorer's feather charm? You're no sage, but you're feeling the game's strange beauty. Each rule a window into a world where sport was prayer, where players danced with gods to keep the cosmos spinning. The air's cool, the stars bright, and you're reflecting on how these rules, heavy balls, crowd roars, divine roles, wove a ritual that sustained a civilization's heart through centuries of triumphs and trials. A grizzled elder, his mat rolled under his arm, shuffles past, pausing to share a quiet story of a game that ended a city's drought, its rules a pact with the rain god Chalk. You offer him a sip from your gourd, its last drops warm but shared, and he nods, his eyes tracing the court's rings, a testament to Pocatoc's enduring power. You're learning its quiet truth. The game's rules weren't just for play, but for survival, binding communities to their gods, their land, their hope. Historians still argue whether Pocatoc's rules evolved over time or stayed rigid. Some say they adapted to political needs. Others think their sacred core remained unchanged, rooted in myth. You're too weary to care. You're gazing at the rings, the court's silence profound, and you're grasping how these rules carried a people's spirit, that serpent glyph you traced. The court's rhythm is gentle. A nightbird's call, a priest's soft chant, the breezes sigh over stone. You spot a young boy curled by a bench, clutching a tiny rubber ball, his sleep peaceful, perhaps dreaming of scoring under the god's gaze. You smirk. Kids got more faith than you, resting easy while you're wrestling with cosmic thoughts. Your hands are dusty, and you're dreaming of a modern cozy bed. But there's a tender pull in this reflection, each memory tying you to a world where Pocatoc's rules were life's pulse, that solstice pause. The court's stones seem to hum, their stories of players, priests, and crowds, a quiet song that lingers in the jungle's embrace. You sink deeper against the bench, the stone a steady cradle, and let the night's quiet wrap around you. Pocatoc's rules, hip only strikes, sacred rolls, the ring's challenge, were more than a game.
They were a vow to endure, to honor the gods, to weave community through sweat and myth. You felt it, the ball's weight, the crowd's roar, the altar's shadow, each a note in a saga that echoes in ruins and rituals today. A woman's distant hum, a prayer for tomorrow's harvest, drifts through the air, and you smile. She's carrying the game's spirit softer than a lullaby. That pebble kid you dodged? The air's crisp, the stars a canopy, and you're starting to cherish this reflection, where Pocahontas rules wove a timeless thread, a spark in the Mayan city's vibrant heart. The court's pulse is faint, a leaf's rustle, a star's twinkle, the night's gentle hold. You're tied to this quiet, where strange rules became sacred, a thread in the ball court's ancient weave. Your eyelids droop, the moonlight's glow and the earth's dusty scent blending into a sleepy haze, like a fan's hum on a cool night. You're no player, but you're resting in the night's reflection, learning how Pocahontas' odd rules shaped a world, a cosmic spark in the Mayan heart. As moonlight bathes the court, its stones whisper of games past, their rhythm a gentle cradle for a city's dreams. Picture yourself sinking into the bench, the night's cool embrace holding you, its story, sweat, faith, rings, drifting skyward like smoke. Let the jungle's murmur soothe you, the stars' soft glow blending with the court's quiet breaths, easing your heart. You're safe here, wrapped in a tale of strange rules and sacred play, a tender spark across centuries. Drift now, the world softening, and sleep deeply, cradled in the gentle glow of the Mayan night, where every game was a promise kept. Sweet dreams.